Is it working?
Nope. Did
Okay.
you try to share your screen?
No. I guess that would be helpful. Share
Yeah.
screen. Okay. Okay, first time doing this. Here we go. All right. What do we do with this? Okay. All right. Yeah, everyone can see okay?
Yeah, I think it's good.
Perfect. Okay, so to the left is little me, just in love with dancing and just convinced that I'm a star. And to the right, those are my parents, who've always been very supportive and creative and goofy. So that's how it all began. As an artist, I really hope to capture the human experience and to express it poetically. I'm always observing nature as inspiration, and I have recently been looking for new ways to be regenerative and sustainable in my art and also in my life. I am the resident choreographer for Yes Theatre and have been for 11 years now, 11 seasons. I communicate best through movement and imagery. I believe that storytelling is crucial. My work always starts with a strong vision, extensive exploration, and collaboration. This is an image of a production of Billy Elliot that we did a couple years back. Here's an image of myself on stage in a production of Spring Awakening to the left and Violet to the right. I studied at l'École de Clown et Comédie Francine Côté in Montreal. My slapstick comedy duo Les Bunheads have performed in 6 countries, mostly for like Got Talent shows, so like America's Got Talent, La France un incroyable talent, etc. This GIF here was made after a performance, and no, I am not kicking my partner Vanessa in the face. That's just part of slapstick. We also performed at Montreal Just for Laughs and the New York Clown Theatre Festival. After that, I went to California, Northern California, and studied at Del Arte International, it's a school of physical theater, where I studied mask and commedia dell'arte, buffon, melodrama, character, and ensemble work. This is just a little mashup of a bunch of kooky characters that I've worked on in the past. And yeah, I dream of building the vessel Centre d'Art et de Création, which would be a multi-purpose bilingual center for the arts and creation on the French River. This idea is in the form of an artistic retreat, providing a space that morphs to the needs of the community of the artist creators. The space will encourage, hopefully, investigation, discovery, creation, education, and collaboration between artists of all mediums. The space will be used to mount work, workshop work, show works in progress in an environment free of distractions and full of outdoor recreation to feed inspiration. And that's that.
Very cool.
I have a question, Jamie.
Yeah.
How would your little vessel place in French River fund itself? Would it be like a small version of a little theater company?
I'm not sure yet. I definitely think that grants will be important for funding, especially if we want to be building an actual building. So not necessarily a theater company, I don't believe. It might be a non-for-profit. Those are all things that I have yet to find out. Okay, stop share.
Great. So, from what I understand from Janice, she used Canva to create this. So if you haven't gone and explored that, please take advantage of it because it's a pretty good program. Allows you to do lots of things. Okay, so we will get down to our content tonight because we've got a lot to cover. So let me just pull it up and we'll get going. Okay. Oh, whoops, I forgot to share my screen, so you guys don't get to see it. That's not really very good. Okay. So as I said, because it's such a serious topic again tonight, I thought that I would give you at least some pretty pictures. So we're going to talk about finance and taxes. And the things that we're going to cover are financial statements, which I know we kind of looked at, but I'm just going to go over it a little bit more and make sure that you're aware where you can find them in the Google Drive or from me if you can't find them there. Using the financial reports, projections, and then we're going to focus on taxes and deductions. I made sure that I did something that might touch on a little bit of everybody's work. So there's three kind of statements that you need to create that will, be used either for grants or with businesses or anything that you're going to do that's kind of more serious. And a lot of you will likely be looking at doing some grant writing. The last week of our session, we'll have a lady who's going to help you learn about that. So you need a cash flow statement, which is just showing you sort of week to week, month to month, what's going on, an income statement, and a balance sheet. So those are the three things that everybody would be looking for. And as I said, it's really important to get a grip on how this works because you will need it if you want to go get a loan. The banks are going to want to see something. And if you're going to apply for grants, they're also going to want to see some financials. So even if it's not a ton of fun, it's really necessary evil. So this is part of what's in I'm just letting somebody else in, which is in the program. And I put some numbers in so that everybody could see. So this would be the cash flow. So it's looking from month to month to month. And you can break it down from, where those revenues might be coming from, if it's a cash sale for an item or if it's a service that you produce and that sort of thing, and how much that would be each month and so on. Then this down at the bottom is like where some of your expenses would be. So the top is all what you're bringing money in, and the bottom is going to be like, what is it costing you to do that? And then it gives you either a positive or negative number down here. So if all went well, like in this case, a person had made $6,000, and I started it as March, as if you were all just starting to use these kind of tools now. And so between March and August that you'd made $6,000 and that it had cost you, $3,000 and some, so you had monies left over. And then this is the income statement. So you would sort of pull that information. And one of the neat things is those sheets that are in your Google Drive that actually came from the Business Development Center, because I didn't want to necessarily make you have to redo everything. If you enter information in that first sheet that I just showed you for the cash flow, some of it will flow through to some of these other statements, so you don't have to keep repeating it. So in this case, the whole year was $10,000. There was a cost of $500. So your profits were $10,450. There were some other expenses that you would have had. And so all those get added in, and then that's your total operating costs. So what it cost you to work. And so there's your profit. Then there's the income tax, which we're going to spend most of our night on. And there's your profit or loss. So these are the kind of things that they would want. As you can see, there's a percentage signs on the bottom here, or sorry, on the side. And so that would show you what percentage was your profit or what percentage it was costing you to do things. So it allows you to also see, oh my gosh, like it's costing me, in this case, it's only 4% for advertising. If it was costing you 50% for advertising, you'd want to make sure that you were getting full value for your dollar and that sort of thing. And then this is the balance sheet, which I would think maybe the thing that's most foreign to those of you that don't work in the financial world at all. So basically what it's looking at, it's you showing what have you, like it's the same as a net worth statement if you're an individual. What have you got in assets and what have you got in debts or that sort of thing? Basically, that's really what it's talking about. Some of the terminology like goodwill and things like that would be more for a corporation, which most of you wouldn't be doing. But again, it's showing current assets is like, what could you turn into cash today? Fixed assets are things like houses, or in your case, as some of you may have equipment and that sort of thing. And then again, short-term debt would be something that you kind of cover off in a year, whereas long-term debt might be a mortgage, or it might be that you bought a vehicle and it's going to cost you, 4 or 5 years before you get that covered off. It also talks a bit about, longer term stuff. So it could be also that you have things from somewhere else. Drawings are something that you would be using as cash that you take out of the business. So as a self-employed person, unless you set up a certain amount that you're saying is your income, sometimes you're going to take money out just randomly for whatever reason. And that would be treated as drawings, but basically, hopefully it's profits that you're not just taking it out of nothing else. Anybody who wants to figure out how to use any of these and is confused, just send me an email and I'll spend some time going through any of them with you, but they work pretty easily. Okay. So one of the things that you're going to be asked to do, which is really tough for those of you that haven't really started your business before. So to some degree, it's going to be imagining as opposed to, being really sure. And that's why it will be estimates. So using the surveys, if you recall now, it's a few weeks back when Kirsten talked to you about doing the surveys to find out what was going on in the market and, how many people might be interested in the products that you do and stuff like that. So either using the surveys that you may have already done or that you plan to do, that's one of the things you want to do a little bit of homework on to help you with estimating what you think you can make. And then the people that you do know, so everybody, if I went around and asked all of you, who are the people that are interested in what you do, you could all give me a list probably of at least half a dozen, maybe more, that are people that like what you do and people that would spend money on what you do. So, having a bit of an understanding as to, how much money do they think is, a good amount for a ticket for something you're going to put on for a performance, or how much is somebody willing to, pay for your book or for your piece of art that you create. Be very cautious when you're estimating sales, though. Don't get really excited like when I was showing you that format and it was like January, February, March and that sort of thing. Like really think about that and don't turn around and say to yourself, oh yeah, I'm going to make, $3,000, in April, unless you have a really good reason to believe that you could produce that much of work that would sell in that month. So, always better to kind of underestimate your sales and overestimate your expenses, and then you won't go wrong. It's always better to go worst case scenario. And then keep your marketing in mind. Now we learned from Nick a lot of things that you might be able to do that's just using your time and not necessarily being expensive, but there will be things that you do have to spend money on. And so those are all things that you're going to work into your estimates. So then when you look at this sales estimate, and again, I just wrote in here that, you could, like, for some reason it's called season. I'm not sure why it's called season, but you can use that terminology for whatever you want. So this is in March, you're just starting your business. maybe you're going to do some sort of spring sessions or some sort of spring sort of sales pitch or idea. You can identify what the activity is, and then here's where you're estimating. So how many customers do you think you're going to be able to sell to in March or in April or whatever? And so then this is what you think the average cost of what they're going to spend. So then it does the math for you automatically. 5 times this is, this is your estimated sales. So it allows you to, figure that out. So I encourage you to go play with this, because it will get you thinking as to how is this going to work or not going to work. And as I said, go ahead, play with these tools, make sure that you've given it a shot. It will be something that's expected with your business plan. It's really useful for you to start thinking a little bit like this. And one of the things I'd also say is, if this is not your forte and somebody else in your family or good friend or somebody who's going to be a partner in your business, if this is something they would like to do, they just need to talk to you, and you tell them the information and let them run the numbers, so that it allows you to do what you like to do and let somebody else do what they like to do, or do that bartering thing where, you're going to create this piece of work for them, or you're going to help them in some way, and they're willing to do this. So don't let it discourage you, but don't ignore it. Okay, so we're going to spend the rest of the time talking about taxes, because there's a lot to know, and you won't learn everything tonight, but certainly I want to give you a really good pocket of information that'll help you. So most of you will not be incorporated, and if anybody's incorporated or wants to incorporate, please, on a offside, talk to me about it. You would, if you're not incorporated, you're going to have a calendar year, just like you would do your income tax from January to December. As a artist that's employed, you're going to use January to December. But as a business owner, because you all actually are business owners, whether you realize it or not, the deadline to file your income tax is June the 15th. So you get a little bit of extra time to file. However, really important that if you wind up owing tax, you still have to pay that tax on April the 30th. So it's a bit of a catch-22. I'm not sure why they let you wait till June 15th. So you want to kind of at least do an estimate if you think you're going to owe, because if you wait from April 30th to June 15th, they're going to charge you interest on the money that you didn't pay. So we never can figure out what the tax band's really all about. So these are the kinds of things that would be your income. So it's important for you to realize it from a tax perspective. It's also, these are all the things that you could wind up using on your spreadsheets. So gross income. So one of the things really important, and we'll talk a little bit about HST after, you want to realize what's your gross income. So before any of those expenses that you paid, because it's that gross amount before expenses that you have to deal with for your HST. A lot of you will receive T4A slips if you do a contract. Oftentimes that's how you're going to have it recorded back to you. If you get a grant, oftentimes it's going to be on a T4A slip, bursaries, scholarships, any of those kind of things. If you do take drawings, so just like, you created your business account and you've got yourself set up that this is not your personal monies, this is money that's just money you brought in from your business, then, and you take the drawings for whatever, it could be for personal use, it doesn't really matter what it's for, but if it's taken and it's not something that's an expense, it's considered drawings. And that's even with personal use items. So the tax man gets a little picky on stuff like this. So for example, if you're using something for your vehicle or something else that's deemed to be personal, they would want to know how much of it's actually for business and what's not for business. Things like royalties, a number of you will also get income from royalties. So that might be something where you've written a book or music and there's copyright. If you created something that can be patented and or have a trademark. So these are things that you would potentially get ongoing income from. And then there's other incomes which are a bit tricky. So there's what's considered art production or research grants. So something that produces, and this could be a film, this could be you know, a music video, or it could be actually producing a piece of art that you've somehow got either a research grant or a grant of some kind. So this has like special tax situations, and we'll look at an example in a second. So there's also things that are prizes, scholarships, and bursaries. So depending on what you apply for and what you wind up receiving, these are all things that would also be considered income. Now, this other income in this section here, it could be that some of that income is exempt. Not all of it, but certainly some of it. So one of the things to look at in the first year that you have income, if you, in the first year you open your business. So we'll imagine that you all are going to be, you know, gung-ho after this process and you know, run with it and all have established yourselves as a going concern business. But if you wind up by some, you know, situation that it's more of a building year for you, and so you don't actually do anything that causes you to generate a sale, so there's no income earned, you aren't able to claim the expenses. So for example, when you go to file your income tax in 2021, if you started your business this year, and it cost you money to start it, but you didn't actually earn any income, then you can keep those expenses and they will be something you can deduct, but you can't deduct them when you file your income tax next year. Otherwise, the tax people will come back and slap you on the wrist. So you don't want that. So just really important that you get organized and you keep all those expenses, but make sure that there's income if you're going to actually deduct it. So with these scholarships, prizes, and bursaries, if it's this art production, then there can be this exemption, but you would still include it on your income tax. So even though you get this exemption, you don't just not tell them about it, because again, you don't want to get smacked on the wrist. And I don't know if any of you have ever had the experience of going through a Cra audit, which is fine if you can show them everything they're asking for, you're golden. If there's any problems and they think that you haven't been honest, it's not so pretty, and they can tend to earmark you to watch you in the future. So you want to really be fully disclosing everything. So these art production grants are often exempt, but they can't exceed what's considered reasonable expenses. They can't exceed what the total grant in calculating that taxable income will be. And the expenses have to be, again, in the same year as the grant income. So for example, if you had expenses in 2021 and you didn't receive the grant income until 2022, then you've got to make sure that those two line up, or otherwise they're not going to accept it. And here's that example. So it makes it a little bit easier for you to relate to. So let's say you got a grant of $5,000 to produce this art production piece. So what happens is there's the grant exemption could be up to $3,500. So in this case, the reason is there's a basic scholarship exemption of $500, and this was a sculpture that was done for a park, and so that cost $2,000 for the metal sheets and $1,500 in travel to, you know, get it there, etc. So basically that was where those $3,500 in grant exemptions come from. And so as a result, though, you have to include $1,000 in your income. So does that make sense to everybody? If it doesn't, please say something, because I know this is new to you. So everybody's clear, they understand how that worked? Okay, good. So then one of the questions you often have is, do I need to apply for HST or not apply for HST? It's not required to apply for HST if your income's below $30,000. So if just that straight income, so what you earn, nothing to do with your expenses. So if it's below 30,000, you do not have to apply for HST. You might decide you do want to. And the reason why some people don't is once you apply, you have to file an HST return. So it's another job to do. However, it does allow you to deduct some of the HST that you collect. So once you're registered to have HST, then it allows you to, all the HST that you're paying on the goods or services that is for your business, you can use that as a deduction. And that may or may not be useful. It just depends. So the other thing that happens is once you register for HST, it means that you now have a job from the government to collect that HST on their behalf. So every sale that you make or every ticket that you sell, if you're doing a performance, you have to put the HST on that sale. So it's a matter of, making sure that you've set yourself up, and so that anybody who's purchasing stuff from you, they understand that that's what's required, that you're now in a situation where you have to charge the HST. You can deduct it on any supplies or services for the business though. So, that's really nice. And it is possible that once you file, you may get an HST rebate. So if these expenses that you've deducted your HST, all the things you've purchased, if it winds up that you didn't sell as much as what it cost you, so what you wound up doing is you collected all this HST, but you really don't have to give them any of it, then you could actually wind up getting a rebate. It's not something I'm encouraging you to wind up getting the rebate, because ideally what you want to do is you make enough sales that at the end of the day, you're paying the HST to them. But and one of the things you do have to be careful with the HST is that you're collecting that money. It's going to go in your bank account, but it's not your money. So really important to make that distinction, that you're keeping a record of what is the HST that you've collected, because if you wind up spending it, then you're going to have to pay them out of your own pocket. So just really important that you're really organized with that. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about keeping those records. And this is really, really important, because when you file your income tax, now most people file by e-file or net file, so they're not sending in reports. But if you had to, you need to be able to produce it. And so it's really important that you maintain, so every invoice that you create, and if one of your jobs in your financial planning is, if you haven't created invoices or some sort of tracking that you give to somebody to say, you owe me this for the painting that I did, or for the book that I've created, or these are the ticket sales or whatever, you want to do that. You want to make sure that's on your list of to-dos, is that you're going to create one of those. And this could be a good bartering thing. So maybe one of the artists would like to create a template, and whoever doesn't really do that, they're willing to do something for the person who's created that. So always think about where you can trade off. So any cash register tapes, any receipts, any contracts. So if you set up that you're going to do a job for somebody, and it's not necessarily like a particular item, but and maybe it's going to take you a longer time, and so you're going to do a number of pieces of work for them, or you're going to do a number of films, or you're going to do an ongoing kind of job with this person or this corporation, then keep the contracts. So make sure that all these things are really important. And I would certainly say, for those of you that haven't started like a filing system, at the very minimum, go get yourself one of those accordion cases and just label it. Don't label it by the month. That's not important. What's important is, what's the category? So is this vehicle expenses? Is this art supplies? You know, is this advertising? That's the kind of categories that you want to create, because by the month, when you go to file your income tax, if you wind up doing it yourself, or if you give it to somebody else, they're going to charge you a lot more money if you give it to them by the month, because they've got to categorize it. So that's how all of the income tax works. It's not by how to, you know, like for your purposes, you want to know how much it costs you each month to do the work, but you then want to put it in these categories. So, you know, at the very minimum, do that, or you could set up yourself a little filing box or a filing drawer or whatever. Also maintain your bank deposit slips. So when you're putting the money in the bank for what you've earned, PayPal records or bank statements if it's e-transfers or however you're setting yourself up. So for your expenses, same sort of thing. Anything that you've spent money on that's for the business, keep those receipts, those invoices, those cash register tapes. If you wind up going out for lunch with somebody and you're schmoozing them to throw your business, this is part of your marketing plan, write down who you went with. Because if CRA wants to really be picky, they want to know that you didn't just go for lunch with your buddy. They want to know that it was like legit. So the better you track, and it's just little things, you don't have to make it a job. You just have to, you know, like have a little briefcase in your car or in your purse or in your glove compartment, and you can put the receipts in there if you're running around or something like that, but then you make sure that you're taking them out and categorizing them. Again, this is like a once a week job. Don't make it like 6 months or you'll hate yourself. Again, maintain any statements, contracts, fees, really important. And then if you don't want to actually keep the paper, or you're worried about like some of the cash register receipts don't maintain themselves well for a long period of time, then, you know, use technology, like scan it in. If you've got a scanner, take a photocopy or take a picture, and then just, you know, you can digitally store all this too, like whatever works for you. I would certainly encourage you, if you're somebody that likes the paper, use the paper. If you're somebody that thinks that's going to be a problem, then use a digital source, whatever is going to work with you easiest, because the main thing you want to do is be diligent about keeping them and be able to pull them up easily. So again, if you do it digitally, set yourself up, you know, categories and store it all in, you know, files that are called whatever it is that your particular categories are that you spend money on. Yeah,
I had a question. You said put them all in the categories in the expanding envelope. Shouldn't you do the categories on a monthly basis as well? Because otherwise you might have like 10 months with all gas, and then you got to go by date as well.
Well, if you're doing your good doobie job here, you're every week or every month, you're going to have dealt with that. So then once you've dealt with it, either that week or that month, then it just needs to go into the category.
Oh, so do it on a monthly basis somehow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I would encourage you to do that, because I guarantee you, even if you're a person who likes to do, you know, financial work, you're not going to love it at the end of the year. You're going to really dread it. And so the more you make, like, I can't encourage you enough, put it all in bite-sized pieces and do the little bite-sized pieces, and it won't feel like a nightmare, but it will if you let it go. Absolutely. That's a really good point. Thank you, Frank, for bringing that up. So this is important for anybody who would have anything that could be considered an inventory. So one of the things that you would put within your financial tax records are, what have you still got left that you haven't sold? So it could be paintings, original prints, etchings, drawings, sculptures, anything that's like a reproduction though. So if it's like your first print would be the one that counts. And then anything that you're getting done off, that doesn't count. I don't know that it makes sense, but that's CRA's rule. It also can include things that are unfinished. So maybe you're in the process of doing work, but it's not quite completed. And material costs that are involved with some of this work would also be something that would consider part of your inventory. absolutely no labor costs. So whatever your hourly rate is, that has nothing to do with your inventory. It's the actual, you know, whatever those pieces are and what you think they would sell for. Sometimes there's a possibility to do overhead, which is, you know, like the space that you work in. It's not really a lot though, so I wouldn't worry about that. So the value of this inventory is, what do you expect it to sell for? And again, it would need to be like, what would the going market rate would be? So for those of you that have actually sold pieces, you would have a good idea. If you haven't, then you would do a bit of an estimate. Things that you have to be a little bit careful of, like we learned a bit about the internet, and I'm sure that some, if not all of you, will utilize the internet as a source of advertising and maybe even setting your business up online, which would be an awesome thing to do. So income earned from sales or advertising that you're able to get paid for has to be included as income. So any pages or website sales have to be recorded, like any pages that you would make money on, sort of thing. If you're using a shopping cart or some sort of digital payment process anywhere in the world, you include that income, because when you file your income taxes, CRA looks at your worldwide wealth, not just what you earned in Canada. And now with the internet, you can absolutely earn anywhere in the world. And then any kind of programs that you're connected with that, you know, you would earn income from. So things that you can use for expenses, certainly advertising, but only if it's from a Canadian source. Again, if you're advertising and it's costing you money on a foreign website or in a foreign magazine or any format that's not in Canada, they're disallowing those expenses. Again, don't ask me the reasons why, because CRA has the most strange rules going sometimes. If you are claiming meals and entertainment, which sometimes maybe maybe you're taking somebody somewhere to encourage them to become a new client, and so you're taking them to, you know, a theater production or something like that, you're only allowed to deduct 50% of that cost, because the government is looking at it and saying, well, you got to eat or you got to enjoy that as well. And so they only let you spend 50 or write off 50%. If you go to conferences or conventions or anything like that, which even now there are tons on digital, it needs to be professional or connected to your business. And they only like if you go to 5 in a year, they're not going to let you deduct 5. They're only going to let you deduct 2. And again, if you, in these cases, I mean, I don't know what'll happen after COVID, but pre-COVID, it was really common to physically go to a different destination. So there would be hotel costs, travel costs, and food costs. The hotel costs, travel costs, and the cost of the conference would be something you can expense 100%. However, any food that you eat on the way or while you're at the conference is still only allowed 50% of a deduction.
I have a food question, Linda.
All right.
I went out in the bush last month. It's in to do like some like field bush geology work, bush work. So I had to buy all my own food, like $300 or $400 of food, because I had to pay my own food.
Yeah.
While I was up there. But when they gave me so much a day, they gave me a per diem. Can I claim 100% of my food, and then I have to claim 100% of the per diem?
If you were, yeah, I mean, basically, is the per diem something on a like a T4A or a T4 slip, or is that just they're just giving it to you?
No, they just gave me, and I had to claim it on I had to submit it in my invoice. But the food part, if I had to add, so I claim I assume I claim the per diem as that they give me as an income.
Yeah.
But I want to be, can I claim 100% of my food as an expense?
No.
If I have to claim 100% of my per diem, but then I should only have to claim 50% of my per diem as an income then.
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, quite often, I mean, I don't know, because if you put the per diem in your invoice, then that does the per diem equal 100% of the groceries you spent?
Well, it was more. They probably paid me like $40 a day and I didn't need $40 a day worth of food.
I wouldn't claim that then.
No?
I
Okay.
mean, I wouldn't claim more than the per diem, because if you claim, like, if they paid you that and you didn't, like, I see where you're coming from, that you didn't actually have to. So I wouldn't claim the food at all,
Okay.
because I think you could wind up in trouble, because they're sort of looking at, okay, you've been covered, sort of thing. Usually it's if you're actually out of pocket that then you get to claim it, but only 50%.
Okay.
Other things that you can use that are deductions from the employment that you make. So if it's costing you for compositions for dramatic work, you know, certainly the copyright sometimes to certain theater productions, if it's costing you for musical scores and stuff like that, or if there's something that you are, you know, paying for literary work, if you're performing as an actor, singer, dancer, musician, and drama or musical. So again, those are all things that could be used. Creating any kind of artwork. And then if you're if somebody's performing artistic activity as part of a group. So for example, maybe in Mo's situation, he's going to be more of a conglomerate of people. It's not just him by himself doing it. And so as a result, there would be that opportunity. It does have to be a professional artist association that's been certified by the Ministry of Canadian Heritage in order for this last one to count. Other things that would be expenses that you could use, certainly like if you buy instruments or special equipment and you have to have a special insurance, because oftentimes it's those pieces of equipment or such as the musical instruments that get carried around. And so because they get carried around, they're a little bit more in danger of maybe theft or damages. And so that's why oftentimes people will have that extra insurance, and that's allowed as a deduction. Certainly any kind of repairs to instruments or equipment, including things like reeds and strings and stuff like that. If you have any union dues, because so as some of you, if you're, you know, in the acting world, there may be union, there is such a thing as CARFAC, and I will get more information to give you about that in another, before the end of our program, or any other professional fees, including if some of you wind up going on to get like an agent who helps you with your, you know, getting your name out there and getting gigs and stuff like that, those agent costs or commissions that we pay them would be something that you can deduct. If you've gone to a performance, or you're going to do a performance, you can pay for makeup and hairstyling or whatever for those public appearances. So I would encourage you, if you're going to do something like this, make sure it's kind of in sync with the time that you're performing, because if they want to get picky, they will look at that. Like if you got your hair done a month ago, that's not going to cut it. And then again, dress clothes. So if it's more like clothes that you have that, you know, you're wearing from your home to performances, or at the performances, those things could be deducted. Again, like, you know, don't make it every piece of clothes that you've ever got, because that's not going to fly. And then transportation expenses for performances or auditions. Now, and again, this can even be taxiing from one place to the next. Anytime you're going to do this, make sure that it kind of all lines up though, because for sure, and just so you understand is what happens, CRA will look at things from time to time. They will make a call on, sometimes it's just an industry, and they just decide they're going to do a blitz on a particular industry. Not that long ago, it was realtors and stuff like that. So they just go through and they'll pull names. And if you can show them what they want, that's fine. If you start, you know, that you've got like a ton of dress clothes and makeup and hairstyling and other types of things, and they start looking and you don't have a log that sort of matches that, or you don't have a log at all, they'll just sort of say, no, and they'll throw all kinds of expenses out. So that's why I know it's not the fun part to keep the tracking, but it really makes a difference. And I don't know why, but they seem to be able to choose the audit people for CRA that are the meanest people on earth. And so they come at you from the perspective, because I've helped some clients through some audits, and they come at you from the perspective that you had to have been doing something fraudulent, or you had to have been, you know, doing something you shouldn't be doing, as if you're guilty before proven innocent, and all the onus is on you. So if you've got good records and you can provide those good records, you're fine. But if you don't, it is definitely not a good time at all. Okay, I just want to check where I'm at, and then I'll decide where we're going. Okay, I think this is a good time to take a break. And we'll reconvene, and that sort of again at about 8:05. And so again, oh well, I should, before you do it, does anybody have any other questions before we carry on or go away?
Linda,
Yes.
Linda, I just had one question. When you're talking about personal filings on April 30th,
yeah,
then you're talking about business filings on June the 15th.
Yeah.
If you're not incorporated, does this not become one?
That's right. It does become one, but because you're not incorporated, it means that your personal filings are also not needed until June 15th.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to most point, just to make it really clear. So for some of you that are maybe working someplace else, so maybe you have a regular T4 or a T4A or something like that. So there's a section on the income tax that you're going to put that information like you've always done, but you're going to have another section which will either be business income or professional income, whichever you choose to make it. And so that's where all of this other stuff goes. And, you know, it's all in the one tax return. And so, for example, let's say for this year, because everybody, well, I'm going to assume you're all kind of brand new-ish to business. You may have a business loss. That business loss will actually reduce the tax that you paid on a T4 slip that was from your regular employment income. And in a first year or in the first few years, that would not be a red flag to CRA. If this happened year after year after year, guaranteed your number's going to get pulled, and they're going to come see, because they're figuring nobody goes into business to lose money, and they expect that you're going to maybe struggle for a few years to get your feet. And you may not, like some of you may be like bang out of the gates and awesome, but nevertheless, you know, it can be something that will reduce your other income, but it definitely is all one tax return.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Yeah. Because of COVID, they gave extensions for business and taxes, like for
Last
6
year.
months. Last year. Is that extension? Are last year's taxes for companies supposed to be in by now?
Oh gosh, yeah,
Yeah?
absolutely. Oh yeah, if you haven't filed your taxes in your company last year, you already owe them interest if you owed them money.
Okay.
I mean, they're in a bit of a you know, schmozzle to some degree, because of the fact that a lot of people did file like way late, even after the September deadline that they let us go to. And because they also got CRA working on the CERB, there's a scramble there. And so there's going to be a reckoning though, because they are hiring, my understanding is they are hiring a blitz for this fall to go in and really have a good look at anything that was to do with COVID, because they gave away probably more money than they meant to. And they're going to make sure if they can get any back that they're getting it back. So
How about though for like my corporate, for my jolly was end of last, it goes from March to March.
Yeah.
So from last year's taxes, there was, because so I didn't have to pay till June or of last year.
yeah,
So, but is it with the COVID, there's also an extension as well. Should the last year's taxes already be in by now, or is it still under extension?
Well,
What
that,
do you-
because you're saying that from last March to this March, so you're saying that you wouldn't, like your year end would be this month,
That's right.
correct?
That's right.
Yeah, you should still have a bit of an extension. I'm not
From
100.
last year, like from the last year, for 219, 220 should be still under extension, but still okay.
I would think so because of it incorporated within the COVID year.
Well, no, it was incorporated before that though.
No, but I mean, this income you're talking about is within the COVID year.
That's right.
Yeah, so I'm sure you would have some extension. I would want to check for sure though, because like
Okay.
how long, just in case, because they are gonna tighten things up now.
Okay.
And this year they're not giving any extensions. That's it, that's all. Okay, so we'll give you guys a break, and if anybody has questions when they come back, no problem, we'll continue.
Hello, Linda.
Hi there. How are you?
Very, very well. Did you have a good week?
Yeah, it's been a good week. Can't complain. What about you?
End of March already.
Oh no, it's shocking, eh?
It's nuts. I was wondering, what are the expectations for us going forward? You'll probably mention that. At the beginning of the session, Ganesh was saying some of you might want to do a business plan, some of you might not want to do a business plan.
Yeah.
So are we expected to do it, or?
I mean, well, he gave us very good examples. Like in some cases, it just isn't necessary. I mean, I think that it kind of depends on how you want to structure yourself. Like certainly, like he said, if a person was an actor and that's all they were going to do, well, that sounds awful, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
That maybe that doesn't really make sense. It's because I mean, you're marketing yourself. It's not necessarily conducive to that. But I think anybody that's looking at something else, it would be useful. It's not like, if you choose not to, it's not a problem. So you don't have to feel, okay, if I don't do it, I have failed or something, because that's not our intention. Like it's more about empowering you with the information.
And I find going through all the information, seeing that in my case, I'm already working out of my house. I have my accountant. I do the deductions, and I'm sloppy, but I'm still there.
Yeah.
I'm hopefully gonna have a better, a little bit more structure.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking that so far, even having to do the film really helped me to focus and to say, okay, what is it you're really about right now? Because there's this happening, that. And I remember at the very first, the beginning, we were saying, oh, focus, how to stay on the bandwagon of focusing and not falling off the wagon all the time.
Yeah.
And even, I was thinking, even if I just do the summary, executive summary.
Yes.
It's helped me so much to say, okay, right, I'm seeing it now, and things are all falling into place.
Yeah.
How one loops into the other.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to clarify that, to see if and the other question, and the other thing is too, where I will probably be going towards the business center. I probably do it in French. But I know there's probably somebody at the business center, because I've been there before. I've got
I'm sure they would have bilingual.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, thank you. I just wanted to
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and you know, in your case, you have a pretty amazing career throughout your life, right? So you've had a lot of life experiences, and it puts you in actually a better position than maybe some of the other people. Like, because we have quite a diverse group, and some are very young, and it you know, for them, some of this may be brand new.
Right.
And that sort of thing. But yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, by what you said, and one of the groups sent me like their goals and wanted a little bit of feedback, and sir, I would really encourage people, like, you know, set yourself up a little calendar with, these are the things I need to do to get where I want to go. And it helps with that focus without it, because people are creative. It's very normal to be over here and over here and over here. I totally agree with you. Like I think that's part of a creative mind. And that sort of thing. But so you would sort of put something there, and like now with the digital, you could put it in a calendar. You have little reminders that pop up, and you know, it just allows you to maybe do what you do best, and just have nothing fall off the table.
Anyways, it's really eye-opening, and I'm really enjoying the program, and
good.
I'm learning a lot, and
that's good. Yeah, good. Well, that's good to hear. That's really good to hear. By the way, Frank, I double checked on something while everybody was on break, and strictly speaking, you don't have to claim the per diem as income. No, usually those kind of things is just like it's considered like one covers off the other. And you're right, sometimes it's more than what you might spend, but that's okay. But strictly speaking, you don't actually have to claim that.
So then I wouldn't claim the food as an expense then that I bought.
That's right.
Okay. That makes more sense.
Yeah, because what you were saying, and I'm like most people that I've known, and so I went and like double checked, and yeah, usually it's not considered something you have to claim.
Well, the thing is, I pay for it. I paid for my food out of my business account, so I'll just have to get my bookkeeper to somehow not include that as an expense. I'll have to include. I'll have to include
Yeah,
that
that's just
as a draw.
that's a draw. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay, good. He'll probably maybe he'll know that.
Yeah, I would think so.
Rachel, I was going to say, I'm the same as you, Rachel. It's really hard to. This is helping me try to see focused on different ideas, because I have one idea of my screenwriting, I have an idea of the filmmaking a little bit, and something else of theater and monetizing that, and it's just really forcing me to be focused. And you and I have film as a common interest just a little bit, but each person has their own agenda, their own timetable, their own structure. But I still, sometime we could still chat about film sometime. You got my number, just to compare, see what you're doing and I'm doing, and then we'll wish each other well. And sometimes it's just handy to have another person who's doing something similar to you, so you can call up and say, what do you both think of this, or what about that? Because you've got your projects, and plus yours in French, which is mine, is I'm in English. And anyway, it's just nice to know. It's nice to know another film person. I wouldn't mind knowing some actors, but it's nice to know another film person.
Oh well, you talked to Jenny. There, she's connected with the actors.
Oh yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Right. Well, she's with Yes, right?
Yes, I know, but I would guarantee you that the Yes people know everybody who's acting in the city and beyond.
Yeah, no, is it Janie? Jenny or Jenny? Janie.
I think it's Jenny, because I think I got corrected earlier on.
No,
It's Jenny.
Okay, even though it looks like Janie. Okay.
Okay, so I will screen share again, and we will keep going. Okay, you can see that because right? Okay, I wasn't sure. Okay, so we'll carry on. So one of the things that's not that straightforward is that anything that's big ticket items, such as a musical instrument, it's not something that you can deduct in, and this isn't just in year one, that you can deduct in a year. I should have written this better. So what happens is there's something called capital cost allowance. So it's considered that this is like, if you think about it as if it's a house, if you were, putting a door on the house, that's part of the structure. It's like a necessity, but it's a fairly expensive piece that you have to put in there. And the instrument or big pieces of equipment that you might need are considered capital expenses. And so because they are much more costly, they are deemed as this, and this is the acronym that CRA uses, CCA classes. So there's a class for all the different kinds of things that you might be able to expense. So what happens is that, let's say that instrument cost you, $3,000 or $5,000, you can still deduct it, but it's over a period of years. So once it goes into this capital cost, and in this case, it would be a class 8, and it's 30% of it can be deducted. And the intention is that these are depreciable items. So similar as if you had a car, that you buy it and that like it goes down in value over time. I mean, maybe if you've got an antique instrument, it actually doesn't go down. But I mean, a lot of times with wear and tear, they don't have the same value that they did. And so anything that's considered a depreciable item, that's a big ticket item, this is how it gets treated. All of these big ticket items get deducted through this CCAC classes. And there's a different number for the various different classes. And there's also a different percentage that you're allowed to deduct as a result. So, and for most of you, this might be where you get into a tax return and you need somebody to help you, because it might be a little bit more complicated than you've done in the past. And again, that's where, sometimes, again, I'll come back to your bartering thing. If this is something that you're not sure, maybe you go talk to an accountant and say, you know what, I will do this painting for you if you do my tax return. Or maybe like Jasmine, I will do a piece for your, like a drawing for about your dog or your cat, and do my tax return. The important thing is that you understand how it works, even if you're not going to do the tax return. Okay. So then a lot of things that you're going to be able to deduct, because so many of you will work out of your living space, or you're going to use your personal vehicle. So anything that you get to do something that's for your own personal benefit is considered personal use, but it also may be for business use. So for all of you that have a space in your apartment or your condo or your house that is where you work, then that's something that you are going to be able to use as a deduction. Which again, when we talk about, as most of you are sole proprietors, meaning just that you're your own business and you're not incorporated, that's allowing you to use this as an expense. And the benefit of that is you don't have to go and pay rent. So in order to do this, what you do have to do though is to look at what is the full square footage of where you live. So either the full square footage of your apartment or the full square footage of your house, and you want that number. And then you look at how much of that are you using for your workspace. So maybe it's a specific room, maybe it's the basement, maybe it's the whole upper floor of a house. Maybe you use some of the house and some of your garage. It depends on what you're doing and what that workspace would be. And so it's this percentage. So basically what happens is whatever that square footage is that you're using for workspace, that is the percentage of the whole space of your house or apartment that then you get to expense off. The benefit of something like this is, so if you're renting, then that means that percentage of your rent you get to deduct. If you're paying, heat, hydro, and that sort of thing, water, you would get to deduct that also, same percentage. If you're using a landline, that would work the same. If you have insurance on the property or insurance on contents, if you're an apartment owner, that again would be the percentage that you get to deduct. If you're starting this year, so that you hadn't had a business up until sometime this year, and so that's why I use June, just giving you guys some time to have yourself organized and go. So if it's a partial year, then not only you're going to have the percentage that you get to use as a deduction, but it's only going to be for 6 months. So again, you just want to be that all your records line up, so that if CRA comes to check and they're like, well, oh, you said that you started your business in March or April or June, you can't deduct January, February, or you can't deduct January to June, because that wasn't what was happening then. So it's really important. The other thing that happens is if your expenses from the house cause you to have zero income, they'll let you bring it down to zero, but they won't let you go into a loss. So you couldn't, if you had your expenses for where you were working worked out to be, $5,000 and you only earned $3,000, they're not going to let you do, I was in a loss for $2,000. They'll let you carry this forward. So this expense, that $2,000 that was in a hole, they'll let you carry it forward to another year, but not allow you to do it this year, if that's your situation. So that, percentage, as I said, is applied to everything. So rent, if you've got mortgage payments, you can use the mortgage payments, your utilities, your insurance. If you have had regular repairs and maintenance, so maybe, something happened in the house and you wound up, painting, or there was a water leak and, you had some damage and a plumber had to come in or something like that, you can expense that off, again, that same percentage. However, if you set up a workspace and because it's new, you incurred expenses to create that workspace, then those could be fully deductible. So maybe you had to, you know, put up walls, or you had to have shelving created, or, you know, you had to actually redo part of your basement in order to have your workspace, then that's fully deductible, but not all of the other. If you're using your vehicle, which a lot of you again would be using for business purposes, then it's something again that would be maybe partially personal and partially business. Now, in some cases, if you bought a vehicle, and we'll pick on Bridget, for example, let's say that her full-time business was driving Miss Labby. Maybe she has a vehicle that has that on it, which, you know, as I say, with the vehicle use, it's ideal if you have signage or your logo on there. It makes it that much stronger. And it is free advertising. So everywhere you go, people see, oh, what's that? You know, and maybe you've got a website or something on there and they can go check it out. So that's always good too. But anyways, if you were using it only for business, then you could write off everything. But if you're not, then you need to be a little more diligent again. So what I recommend to everybody, and so if you know, if you're starting now, tomorrow, you go out and read your odometer. And then at the end of the year, you read your odometer again. And then that's how much you drove for the full year. And then you just have to keep track of what was it for business. So on a regular basis, you would be like, what's my mileage odometer reading in January 1st? What is it December 31st? So you don't have to look at it the whole time, but you've got that. And then you need to track your vehicle use for businesses for how many kilometers to match those dates. So in a lot of your cases, I mean, some of it will be, if you're a musician or an actor or something like that, it may be going from venue to venue. If you're a person who's maybe you're delivering your artwork to people, then that would be something that you would do and you would keep track of. So what I recommend is that you use a calendar or a logbook. And now in the digital age, there is even an app that you can have on, and it'll track where you go and what you've been doing. But you want the calendar to match up with the kilometers, because again, if you had to prove what you were doing, you need to be able to say that, yes, you know, these were the days that I was, you know, performing, and so that's when I did my running around, or these were the days where I did my deliveries to my clientele and that sort of thing. So it's really important that everything comes together and is logical. Because again, if you don't do that, then Revenue Canada will say, well, we're going to give you, you know, if they could disallow everything, or they could say, okay, we're going to give you like 23 cents per kilometer or something like that. But, you know, if maybe in your situation, 23 cents isn't enough for what it cost you. So that's where then you wind up with whatever that was driving for work, as opposed to that full year. That's the percentage that you can use to deduct for the full year, so that, you know, all those expenses can be tracked. So, oops, I should go back. So again, this is for everything. So if you have, you know, any gas that you've spent, so you look at all your gas receipts. And again, this is where you want to break it down. So if you're doing something, you know, what did you spend in gas this week or this month? Like, I would definitely encourage you, don't go beyond a month, because then it starts to get ugly. And so you write that down and go on. So you're able to, you know, expense your insurance, you're able to expense car repairs and oil changes and all that kind of stuff. If you get a paint job, if you get a car wash, all those kind of things, all based on the percentages. So again, if you're purchasing a vehicle or leasing a vehicle, you can't write it off all in 1 year. So it also falls into that capital cost allowance. And in the case of a vehicle, it's a class 10. And same sort of thing happens. It's going to be over a period of years that you're going to cost this off. So it would be, what's the percentage used for business would still apply to that. You're able to deduct your lease payments if you've got it on a lease. or the interest payments if you're purchasing it outrightly. Your gas, as I said, maintenance and repairs, the auto insurance, car washes. So like there's a lot that you can deduct. It's just based on that percentage though. So it may, I mean, if you don't use your vehicle very much, maybe it's only 5 or 10%. If you're using your vehicle a lot, maybe it's 50% or more. And of course, if you've got your logo and you've really made a splash that this is my artist mobile, so to speak, you know, maybe you're able to use more because really what you're doing as opposed to business isn't very much. So something else that I wanted to talk to you about was because oftentimes the artists in every community get hit up as to what are they going to do for helping people. And so they're asked 99.9% of the time, everybody who has an event is looking for an artist to donate something. So anything that that is a gift of capital property is considered your work. And so that's something that can be, you know, used as a charitable donation or gift. And it does allow you to get a non-refundable donation tax credit. So it allows you to get something for the donation that you've provided. It's really important though, that you can prove that there was no benefit to you. So if you donate a piece of work, or if you do something that is something of a donation in kind, then it can't be something that you're getting a benefit for and be able to write off the entire amount. So for example, what they'd be looking at is that if you did derive some benefit from it. So, I mean, in some cases, for example, maybe you donate a piece and a portion of the proceeds on a bidding comes back to the artist. Well, then you can't donate the whole thing off, for example. So it would be then, what is the amount that's over the fair market value above any benefit to the artist? So if you just donate the piece and you get nothing in return, then that's, no problem. You can expense off the entire amount. If you donate something and you get something back, obviously it would be the difference. And if you donated something, but you got free advertising for it, or you got some compensation that's not necessarily monetary, then you would have to factor that in and look and see what exactly is it that was actual financial benefit in some format to you, or you wouldn't be able to deduct the whole thing. So it's just really important that you look at those, and of course, if it was an astronomical amount that you're donating, the CRA might also question that, but hopefully that wouldn't be the case. Any questions on what I've discussed with you guys so far? Okay, you're quiet. So that means either you can't understand it at all, or I'm boring you.
No, that makes a lot of sense, Linda. And I'm glad to hear about that. And I had never heard of that before.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's lots of things, and same as with the grant stuff. And oh, I forgot, Evelyn or somebody had a question about the grant stuff. Yes, you generally would get a slip that would show that that was income. Like usually it would be considered a T4A, and it would show up as income.
Yeah.
How much of a stickler are they for the mileage? Do they want every exact mileage or can you just use it in big chunks?
I mean, they like to see a logbook or a calendar.
Yeah, I have a logbook, but it's not always perfect.
Well, I mean, if you're doing it a significant portion of the time, then I don't think that there would be a problem. It's when there's very little tracking going on, then they can just pick a number. And like I've certainly seen that before. If they don't feel that it's actually being tracked at all, or very rarely, they'll just pick a number and they'll say that's what you can deduct, and that's it. So yeah, I mean, people are like, regardless, we're all human beings. There's going to be times you don't remember to track it. That's why if you can create some sort of little system that actually makes it easy to do. I mean, even, you know, talking into your phone is fine. Like, I don't care what you do. Think about ways that will be simple, and just, if you do it as regularly as you possibly can, it just makes life easier. And I mean, I get it. This is not the fun part of your art. All this business stuff is not the fun part. But if you figure out some systems, or, you know, partner up with somebody who can do this part that you don't like, then it's going to work better for you. I think it's important, though, whether you get somebody else to do it or not, that you understand a little bit so that you can actually question them. So if somebody's providing you with this service, you want to be able to ask them questions and make sure that they're aware of it. Or, you know, how are they doing it, so that you know what you need to do. Like, if you're providing them with documents, it's important that they're giving you feedback and saying, yeah, this works for me, or, you know, maybe you could do it a different way, or they'll set you up a system that makes it easy for you. But yeah, it doesn't, you don't have to be rigidly putting it in with pen and paper and all that sort of stuff. You know, be creative, do whatever's going to be easiest and work effectively for you. So I can't encourage you enough to find ways to get organized. Prepare those proper statements, do your projections and your tracking. And I mean, if you do this tracking, it's going to make it a lot easier to do the projections. And as I said, this time around, for many of you, you're going to be making estimates. You're going to be making up numbers as far as the sales go, because you're not sure. But the more you do the tracking, the better chance you have of starting to get more accurate. And if you set up a system to start off with, then at least it allows you something to go back to. Use all the tax deductions that you possibly can, but keep your backup in one format or another. As I said, if you don't like paper, or if, you know, if it's just you open a door and everything just flies out, that's not going to really work well. So look at how can you make it easy? What can you do that's just going to make it easy? And that's why I said, you know, if you want to take pictures and just store it electronically, as long as you set up a good electronic system, you're good. Use whatever you can, but don't try to get cute with the tax people. If you try to get too creative and do things that are a bit of a stretch, it will be a problem, and you will find that you're going to get yourself in trouble. You don't want to do that. Okay, I am going to stop sharing for a second, because I'm just going to go and find some of those other sheets to just go over with you. Okay. Oh, before we do that though, again, is there any other questions before I kind of leave this part? Somebody's saying that they're going to definitely get better at the bartering after looking at all this. Yeah. Yeah, I feel sorry in some ways that you have to learn this stuff, because I know that it's not what you really love, but it is kind of important to understand it. And for those of you who are working on the business plan, or planning to, you know, complete your business plan and put it into the business center, it'll be useful if you incorporate these tools, and it'll just make it a little bit easier for you. Okay, so I'm gonna just I have to do a new share, I think, in order to.
Linda?
Yeah.
So just, I guess you didn't catch it in the chat there, but I'm just wondering if this kind of info that you're sharing tonight is stuff that like most professional tax people would know. Like, is that common knowledge in the tax world?
Yes and no. I would say that you may want to do a little bit of homework to find out who's experienced with artists. Mm-hmm. Because yeah, and I mean, I'm giving you an overview, like some of it goes into a fair bit more detail. Okay. So yeah, I mean, on a generic level, like when I talk about the capital cost allowance, the personal business use of house and car, and that, every tax person that you would talk to would know this. They would, you know, totally get that. some of the more detailed things about the artist would not necessarily be as knowledgeable about. And so you just want to maybe put some feelers out there. Again, maybe talk to other artists and find out who do they use, do they know what they're doing, and stuff like that.
Awesome.
So
thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, I didn't see it in the chat. It is actually a bit more challenging to present and pay attention to the chat.
I get you, totally.
Okay, so I just thought I'd go through this with you, like not just looking at it, but so these are all, I put it in the Google Drive in like the different weeks. I might have messed up which week it was, so just go through them and see. But it allows you to, to write in here whatever you want. And so use these. It is, it allows you then, as I said, you want to look at how many people do you think that you're going to be able to do your sales with, and what do you think you're going to charge. I mean, some of you may have already been doing things enough that you know what you're charging, you know what it's costing for certain things. And some of you that are newer to the, kind of making this as a career, maybe you're not sure. So, I want you to stop and think about that, because it is like, it really is going to make a difference. And as I said, many of you will want to apply for grants. One of the benefits we have is that we're in the north. So because you're in the north, there's some grants that you will qualify for that other people might not. Some of you have a cultural difference, such as Rochelle, that's a Francophone, or Marilyn that is Indigenous. There are special grants for those kind of things, but they still want to see the numbers. They still want to know, how are you figuring this out? So it's really important that you do that. So I would certainly encourage everybody to go have a look at this. I couldn't figure out whether or not these are truly Excel or not. I am going to have a little chat and find out whether Kristen has anything that is Google orientated that's already got its formulas in it, or try to have somebody help create something so that you can all use stuff that calculates. Because if you do that, then it's going to work easier for you. You're not going to hate it as much. And so, like I said, with all of this, you can change the numbers in here and it automatically will work for you. So it makes it easy. And I am going to show you the other one, because this is where it got really nice, I think. Oh, there we go. Can you guys see that? Okay, good. Okay, so you all have this. So here's that sales estimate. And then it actually flows through into your cash stuff. So see up here, those numbers came from those estimates. And then of course, then you can put in, other numbers, because these are up here, they're by themselves. Like it flew from that spreadsheet to this spreadsheet. But then you can also enter in here, because this is going to be real. Because this is your estimates, but this is going to be real. So, did you really make $500, and then it's going to add up or whatever. So it just makes it really, really easy. And then down here is your actual expenses. So what were things costing you? And I mean, again, I don't know whether, and I should just check this out. Yeah. You can rewrite over all of this. So if these expenses don't make any sense for what yours are, you can just go in there and put out whatever you want. That was the beauty of these. And, so again, you just put in whatever you want, it's going to add up. And then it gives you that, here's your total, this is your total receipts. So all the income that you earned, these are the things, this is all the payments. And so then there's your net cost. So this is what you made, this is what it cost, that's what you had left over. And then this gives you this opening cash balance and closing cash balance. So it also, if you keep going, because this is cash flow year 1, cash flow year 2, cash flow year 3. So again, some of this you would have to estimate. So if you use some of the tools I gave you last week, that'll give you like your beginning numbers, and then just keep expanding. So what this does then, though, this also translates into going over here to your your project income statement. So, you know, sales, cost of sales, what are those expenses that you would have? And then these are those fixed expenses. And then, so that shows then the income and the operating, and then that shows your profit. So it creates that income statement for you. So again, even if you don't have access to financial people now, or you can't afford it right now, play around with these. It will work. It will help you. And as I said, anybody who plays with it and runs into any issues, just check back with me and I'll give you a hand.
So Linda,
Yeah.
are you going to be sending us a template of this?
It's in the Google Drive, but I will connect it in, like, when I send you stuff after this week,
Okay.
I'll connect it in so you can save it onto your own computers. Okay.
Because that's simply amazing there, the way you have it laid out.
Yeah, well, this is why I went in and I double checked what tools that we had already had for you, because I thought I'm trying to make it as easy as we can, because I know this isn't your favorite part. So let's try to make it, as drop dead easy as possible.
But it's so well laid out. Good job, Linda. Really great.
Well, as the Business Center takes credit for this, not just me. And then this is the balance sheet. So the balance sheet, you do have to enter the numbers again, like your own, because this might be a difference. So this is basically, for example, this would be, and I don't know, I went and I fixed it up. Oh, I know, I fixed it in your Google Drive. I'll go back to Google Drive and get it. So, because I said it was the Sudbury artist people, and it was 2020. I don't know why it says 2018. That was, I guess, what they left. Anyway, so this would be like cash in the bank that you have. If you had hadn't been paid for work that you had put out there, that would be your accounts receivable. And then, if you paid for stuff already, then here's your fixed assets again. And some of those fixed assets would, it could be equipment, it could be musical instruments, it could be any of those kind of things, or if you had purchased a building or a vehicle or something like that. Most of you, like Goodwill and this stuff, is usually for corporations, so it's not important. But again, it shows you, if you look at all your assets and anything that would potentially be a liability, it would show you then where you're at. And then there's also, you can also do this again at the end for your sales estimates. So the tools are there, so that it makes it somewhat easier for you. I'm going to stop sharing. Yep.
Yeah, it's very, very important for a business.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I can't emphasize enough, although I know all of you, like, we've so enjoyed getting to know what you do and having those little close-ups snippets of all of your work. And I kind of gather from some of you that have done it, it also maybe forced you to think about what would you want to highlight about yourself, right? So, and maybe hopefully it will help some of you focus on which part of your passion you're most passionate about. But it is something that you do need to do, and we are hoping that this will help you sort of get going and build that little beginning pieces in. I know that several of you have asked about, like, how do you figure out your pricing and stuff like that, and I think that if you play with some of these, it'll help you. For those of you that have been thinking about that, maybe you could just give me some feedback. Do you think that this is helpful, or is there something else that you think you'd need? That requires somebody else to talk. Don't be shy.
Well, I think that's pretty well complete, but if once you sort of go through it, then if you need something else, then you'll know at this point. It's pretty intense there. It's pretty complete.
Oh yeah, I know. Tonight was like a lot, like information overkill. I totally get that. And hopefully, like, after you've digested what we went through tonight, and maybe look at whatever notes you might have taken and look through the PowerPoint again, just feel free to ask me any questions and that sort of thing. Because I know some of you that are more seasoned and more established, you may already have professionals that you're working with. Some of you that don't, I think it's important that you consider, you know, trying some of this on your own so that you at least get a bit of a feel. And I mean, the sales estimates, nobody can really do that for you. You could have somebody work, you know, with you to talk about it and develop that. But people aren't going to necessarily, they aren't necessarily going to be able to figure out the sales part completely, because you need to do that.
I was going to say, it's interesting. For our business side of things, we use QuickBooks, so that's all kind of organized. We've got a system for that.
Perfect.
And I was thinking, I don't really need to do this sort of thing for my business. I'm not really making much money yet, but it makes so much sense to start recording for grants and just let it get into the system. So it's a good reminder that I need to get on that stuff. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I mean, thank you for bringing that up. Any of you who want, there are QuickBooks, or simply, they aren't necessarily as cute as they sound. Simply is not simple, and QuickBooks isn't really what I would call quick.
It's not easy.
No, they're both very tricky. So there's a, like, you know, it's a great thing to do, and there's a learning curve. And if you're wanting to do that, it is a really good way to get organized. You know, I think that the more established your business is, the more important those kind of tools are.
Yeah.
And
we had enough stuff going on that we needed something like QuickBooks to keep it organized. But
that's right.
When you're starting out, you probably don't need it.
No. I think for a lot of you, the spreadsheets that we have got going here are fine for you. I see somebody says that they looked in the Google Drive but couldn't find the Excel spreadsheets either. It's, if you go, there's like, it says resources, and it's like week 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep going, because I started putting stuff in there for you. But I 100%, I will send this so everybody can put it on their own computer if they want to. It's just, you know, like, you don't have to keep going back to the Google Drive. I just wasn't sure who was going there and who wasn't, and thought it would be a good thing to do that. So, because I do think, even if it's not a really big, a big business, I think that it's important that you do this. And I can't encourage you enough to think, like, get your head around thinking, oh yes, you know, maybe I am going to do some grants and that sort of thing. I just had reached out somebody to the Arts Council that they put together something that's like a little consortium. They're, you know, I believe it's 16 artists that have got together, and they're going to do this particular project, and they're writing a grant for it. So I mean, again, it, you know, there's personal grants that you may want to write for yourself, but you may also want to see where can you partner, and how could that work, because the government is always more generous, a little bit more open to things if they think that they're, you know, getting more bang for their buck, sort of thing, with a group of artists or something like that.
I just thought of another question, sort of more general. With the Google Drive, is there a certain point in time when we're gonna lose access to that and those resources? Like, should we be downloading everything before Artrepreneur ends, or?
I'll check on that. I don't think so, because I think we can keep it. Okay. I'm pretty sure that we're in control of it. I'll double check with Ganesh, because a lot of, not all of it, but some materials came from them. A lot of the marketing stuff came from them originally, and then we just adapted it. But I think we are in control of it. So then I, you know, as long as you were one of the group, I would maintain that access. And if, you know, maybe it's something that, you know, from time to time, because you're part of the group, we could put other tools in there for you to access as well. And that.
Great.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. So any other questions?
Linda, I found it. It's in week 2.
Oh, okay. There you go. Thank you very much. So it's in week 2. I know I messed up one of the weeks later on, and I will clean that up. I mean, maybe it doesn't really matter to you guys which week, but I had trouble, confused Alessandro in a next week, but nevertheless, so it's all good. one of the things I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, because we've got a few minutes, if you don't, unless you have other questions.
Actually, I'll just comment that the Excel sheets, I can open them up in Google Sheets. So it does work for me, even though I don't have Excel.
Okay, so and the formulas work.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'll
Okay, awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I thought they might, but I didn't get a chance to play with it. So I did learn about the sound. So if anybody needs a sound, I know now. I did my homework. Anyways, I wanted to talk to you a little bit because we do have a few more weeks, but I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about, because we're, living in COVID times, that we won't be able to do our live exhibition for, I don't know when, but I do think that you would benefit from, especially because of this and us not knowing what to expect, that I would like us to do like an evening that is what you might have done in exhibiting your work. So, I mean, we've seen little snippets, and maybe we can look at everybody, taking maybe 15 minutes or something like that, because I know most of you did it in like a 3 to 4 minutes. And we will invite your family, friends, and anybody you want, and do a little promo of the great entrepreneurs. So I want you to think about it starting now, so that we can put something together, and that we're not just waiting till who knows when this thing is going to end. I don't want, and I'm hoping we can maintain touch with you so that we will do a live one for sure at some point. I just don't know when. And I would rather us not lose the momentum. And I think that this has been a lot of work for you. I totally appreciate that it's been a lot of work and a lot of hours of time that you put in, and hopefully everybody's going to get plenty of benefit out of that. But that it'd be nice to see you get a pat on the back and maybe show yourselves off to people that are interested. And maybe, who knows, maybe between, you're a very diverse group, and maybe somebody who comes to see it will also be interested in somebody else's work. So
great idea. I'm in.
Okay, good. I'm hoping you're all up for that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. That's good. Okay. Any other questions?
I had a question of the group. Does anybody, I want to do some LinkedIn stuff, which is for like something a little bit different with my other work. Is there anybody who's really good at LinkedIn? I could talk with maybe later in a couple of days or on the weekend just to get some tips how to use it for other things, like how to post things and attach other things to LinkedIn.
I don't know. I don't know how many people.
Well, if there is, I'll exchange some of your time for a Tim Hortons card or something.
There you go.
Or Swiss Chalet.
So if anybody has the experience and is available, maybe they can put their information in chat to connect with Frank. And if not, maybe you can coerce the Nick to help you. Because I'm sure.
Sorry, Frank, I can't help you. I wish I could.
It's not too bad. Somebody's been teaching me different things on LinkedIn. I don't think it's where most of the business people go, though, or most of the art people go. Although I think it's a great market for art people, because a lot of business people are on that, and a lot of business people would certainly be interested in work that's produced by artists. So I think you've actually got a great idea, Frank.
Frank, I'm not I don't have a profile that is super filled out on LinkedIn, but I have the basics on LinkedIn. I feel like it's very similar to Facebook based on what I've seen. So I don't know if you're on Facebook, but there's a lot of fields that it would kind of walk you through the steps, and you would upload things where it lets you. So I think it's kind of self-explanatory if you go into it once you start the page. But I've only done the basics for myself.
Yeah, okay. I'll keep wrestling with the basics. I've used it. I've got a page already, but I'll just practice on my own, I guess. I'll try and wrestle it. Thanks.
I'm sure though, if you email the Nick, she'd probably be willing, you know, for a coffee to give you half an hour or something.
Yeah, no, I've talked to her already, but for some other stuff, but I want to do a bit longer. I think I'll practice first more.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you probably can't, I don't think you can do a lot of harm. Because if you do something and it doesn't work, I think, you know, it's pretty easy to reverse it. And that, I don't know. I just know that somebody was showing me a little bit, and I'm still in learning mode. So I wouldn't want to try to teach anybody else because I wouldn't be comfortable for sure.
Hello. Since day one, I've been wanting to ask a question to Marilyn Jocko. I used to have a friend in Wiki. His name was Don Jocko. Do you know him? We can't hear you.
Oh yeah, you're muted, Marilyn.
Yep.
So you know Don?
My brother. Which
your brother.
Don? Which Don?
He used to be in the military at one point, and he was running the festivals and the powwows during the summer on the grounds.
Oh yeah, that's my brother. Yeah.
That's your brother. Well, say hi to him from Mo and Chuck. Okay?
Chuck LaBelle?
Chuck LaBelle. Yeah, he's my best friend.
Yeah.
And Chuck and I, we used to play there all the time. So say hi to your brother for me.
Oh, well, he passed away a few years ago, but
oh, geez, I'm sorry to hear that.
Where my house is located, this is where he originally built, and then we
bought
it
from
him.
Okay.
So, but unfortunately, wasn't able to see how the house turned out. So,
but he was a good person, and he was our contact person. We spent a lot of time with him.
Yeah, he loved you guys actually. So, yeah, he thought very highly of you guys.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. How we have such a small world, when you start really putting things together.
Absolutely. But there's a lot of history on Manitoulin Island, and especially with Quamicon. And there's a lot of stuff that went on there. And we were part of it for about 10 years.
Lots of parties.
Yeah.
Lots of good work.
That's cool. Any other questions? If there's no more questions, then I think you guys are done a little bit early.
This is good
information, thank you, Linda.
though.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And as I
thank
said,
you,
if you
great
digest it and
tonight.
have other questions, just reach out to me.
It was just a great job tonight. Good job.
Yes, thank you. It's so good to know all this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's important. Like I said, I know it's not the fun stuff, but it's important.
Absolutely.
See you next week.
Yeah,
thank you.
See you next week.
Bye.
And if you
Bye,
haven't had your
everybody.
goals in, get your goals in.
Thank you. See you guys.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Have a good week. Oh, happy Easter.
Oh yeah, happy Easter. Bye.
Okay.
Linda, I had typed in I wasn't sure how to get on Google Drive because the very first session I was up somehow. It was over my head at the very beginning for the
Okay,
Google Drive.
didn't I send you the link again?
Did you send me the link again?
I think so. I'll include the link for everybody when I send again, just in case anybody else hasn't.
Okay, maybe you did and I forgot about it or I didn't check it out. So if you do it again, I'll try it. I'll try it like next tomorrow. Then this way I'll deal with it. It'll be more fresher.
Yeah. And it's just that some of the stuff, like I started putting some of the stuff there. So in case people didn't keep, like sometimes once you've got a bunch of emails, right, you can't remember where they are. So at least it's still there for people.
And is Google Drive, is very specific to what this course here is, or your Google Drive you can use for all kinds of stuff?
Oh
right?
gosh, Google Drive's for anything.
But how do you find the stuff that's specific to this course?
Because there's a special, we created a special link.
Okay, it's the link.
Yeah, you have to share the link in order for a person to go to that particular Google Drive.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just getting used to, somebody did some videos for me, put on Vimeo, and I'm getting used to sharing those links.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's-
yeah.
Once you're used to it, but I'm just not used to how to share the links and cut them or
Yeah.
paste them and.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Well,
Enjoy your weekend.
Yes,
Bye.
you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.